Hi, this is Luke with PS3blog.net. I'm over here in Boston, the Firehose Game Studio with Eitan Glinert, and we're just talking about Firehose and the game.
We're going to show off Slambolt Scrappers today. It's a new mashup of brawling and building coming out just about any second now on the PlayStation 3. It's a PSN exclusive. It's $15. It comes with a free demo, so you can go and grab it. And it's a really bizarre, unique game that kind of has elements of a lot of different games that you've seen before and meshes them up in a really nice way. So we've been having a ton of fun making it. We've been having a lot of fun showing it off at PAX East. And now that it's coming out today, we thought we'd show Luke kind of the game a little bit and talk more about, you know, what the game is and how we made it and stuff like that.
You know, before we get into the game, just wanted to know how it is that you kind of you started the studio. Was it 2 years ago?
We started the studio back, almost 3 years ago now. It was late spring of 2008, and I was graduating from school. I was a graduate student over at MIT, and I had been in the video game industry for a little while. I was doing serious games, and I knew that I didn't want to do serious games anymore. And so I decided it would be fun to start up our own indie studio. I grabbed a couple friends from MIT. We started up kind of later that summer, and we started work on this game. And it's been a very long road, actually. It's been, 2.5 years of development. I think it really shows, but kind of how we got started up was basically we had a stupid idea of, oh, maybe we'll do a game company, and nobody stopped us.
Right. So. And so, how did you guys think of the name for Slambolt Scrappers?
We had this crazy voting thing where we asked all of our friends. We put this online, like Survey Monkey thing online, where we asked all of our friends, hey, what do you think of this? What should we call it? Right. We got all sorts of feedback. One guy, the guy that made Cannibalt, actually suggested, well, what about the word Scrappers? That'd be cool. And we already knew Slambolt City was going to be the setting, so Slambolt Scrappers kind of grew out of that.
And what was it like, or the process to work on a game? How many hours you guys work through? Sometimes studios say that they work like 10, 12, 15 hours daily just to finish.
Oh, those guys are trumps. We were working like maybe an hour or two per day and like 3 or 4 times a week. Most of the time, honestly, we were just going to the beach and hanging out.
So you guys should have more games coming down the pipe, right?
Oh, yeah. Actually, well, it was like that for most of the development. And then around 2 months ago, we realized, holy crap, we need to make the game. And then over this 2-week period, we pretty much worked non-stop, and that's how SPS got made.
Nice. Very nice.
No, seriously, so if you really want to know, it was a very long process, and more interestingly than just being a long process in terms of time and hours, it was a long process in terms of design.
Right.
The version of the game that you're able to buy, Slambolt Scrappers, is actually the 5th version of the game. We had 4 earlier iterations that all got thrown out, that weren't good enough. And so we spent the first year, a year's worth of time for an entire studio making 4 versions of the game that weren't good enough, and every time we threw it out because we needed to iterate. And it was kind of crazy. As a result, the game was very evolutionary. We made versions that weren't so great, we learned from those mistakes, we made better stuff. But the game now is super strong because of those early versions and because of what we learned. So yeah, it was a tremendously hard and difficult ordeal. But now the game's out, so we're feeling really good about it.
Did you guys at any point where you just like, screw this, this is just so much to handle?
There was one point that was really bad. Late in 2009, in December, we had a version of the game that we spent 4 months on, and at that point the game was, you were superheroes, right. And there was a dam that was about to like collapse and flood a village, and there were basically enemies on the dam that were like poking holes in it. And so you had to stop the enemies and patch up the holes in the dam. So there was still kind of this brawling and building notion, but it wasn't the same.
Right.
And we spent 4 months on that. We had a very like polished looking level that even had this giant electric eel boss thing that you fought. And when we came up with this 5th, so that was the 4th iteration. When we came up with the 5th one, we kind of started discussing, oh, well, maybe we'll have to throw out that 4th version, and people were really, tired and annoyed. Right. It was like, well, we've already spent 4 months on this, and we've already iterated so many times, like, who says the next one's going to be good? But we recognized that we had to change it, and there were better things to do, and so we ended up making those changes, and the new one is so much better. So it's kind of a lesson out there for game development. Take the time that's necessary to get something right, even if it means scrapping, pun intended, a lot of work that you spend a ton of time on, right? Because you can't afford to make a mediocre game. And it's worth it throwing out even a half year's worth of work if it means your final game is going to be much better.
All right, cool.